The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
I think I've always believed in the paranormal, but the deeper I get in this field, the more questions I uncover. I started a program called Psyching the Paranormal in an effort to gain insight and dialogue from others interested in the same things as me. And while we've learned a lot together, the questions still remain. So I'm bringing my thoughts to the airwaves, and I've brought along my friends, Adam and John, to share in the fun. Together, we'll tackle the tough topics and debate the evidence as we continue to seek the paranormal. Thank you for joining us once again. This is our fourth episode of Seeking the Paranormal, and tonight we are going to talk about psychics. John's all excited. He's done his research, and I know this is like his very favorite topic.
I am actually going to be the flatulence in the spacesuit tonight.
That does not sound like fun.
just giving you a heads up warning.
So psychics have been around as long as ghosts probably have, and we've talked before about how that's one of the main ways that people have been making money when it comes to the paranormal field. Not only that, but also swindling people out of their money. Not to say that all psychics are not real. It's probably where John and I differ in our opinions. I don't think they are, and John's yet to be given a different opinion.
I'm leaving the door open. In general, I've never met one, seen one, had seen one interviewed, that I could say, ooh, there's something.
Adam, where are you standing on this?
I have met a few that I would agree with, that I believe in, and then I've met the extreme opposite that I can just tell, listening to them speak about certain things, that they're full of shit. So I'm 50-50 on psychics. I think that they do exist. But I think true psychics are slightly rare, the ones that have true abilities.
John, what would it take for you to believe somebody? Do you know?
Well, we did a couple of episodes ago. Really, if there's someone out there that can leave a comment or, tell me something about me that only I would know, yeah, I'd buy it. But the problem is, you see a lot of them, they're reading you. And I've seen it happen. He'll start, maybe cold reading. Everybody knows the cold reading thing where you just shotgun. If you listen to the ones, for example, on TV, because they're the biggest ones that people are going to relate to, that aren't into this kind of circle, they will ask questions. I think John Edwards is like, 30 a minute, which is like every 2 seconds. So, and they wait for a reaction, and that's fine. But then they start getting clever and they do what's called, I think it's called a unicorn statement, and it's two edges of a sword. So they'll say, well, she's been looking at your situation and she's very nervous, and then they wait. And if the people don't grin or give an affirmative sign, they say, although she's nervous, she was never that way. So now and then they all like, oh, you knew her, she was very outspoken. So they're very clever, and the people that go to them want to have that connection. So you're already preaching to the choir, and that's my problem.
Okay, that's fair. Have you gone to like a gallery reading, or have you seen a psychic privately? Have you had any type of experience that way?
I did a free reading that was like 3 minutes as research for this show, and it was online. I get it. And
really?
So probably not, someone who, is like one of the Ghostbuster psychics.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. But it was, after that, it was 66 cents a minute.
Oh, okay.
And the 3 minutes you get are worthless. It's just a bunch of cold reading, trying to narrow down what they can talk about.
Okay.
And the thing that really scares me is now you can pick, are they a pet psychic? so I can talk to a dead pet.
Yes.
Which I never talk to a live pet, so that's really clever.
Now, I've heard you talk to your babies.
Yeah, I know, but they never answered me. So it's 66 cents a minute for bad breath. Or
Right.
What, you know? So, I mean, and then, you know, what do you want them to use? Do crystals or tarot cards or just a medium? And I'm sorry, it's basically, when you look at them, they are trying very hard to fit into your belief system. They can't all work. Well, maybe they can, but no. You know, I'm not buying that. So what they're really doing is they're trying to figure out what it is you believe when you get to this stupid menu system. Oh, I believe in the crystals and this and that. And then they funnel you down to get you to somebody that's pretty much knows what belief system you have and will appeal to that more. I'm not closing the door. I'm not going to say there are no psychics,
sure.
period. But I have yet to meet one, you know, that's convinced me.
Well, and as of this recording, nobody has met our challenge of giving us John's, it was your grandfather, right?
Mm-hmm.
First, middle, and last name. So I really do hope that somebody listening will be able to give us that answer, because I would love for John to be stunned in that respect.
Well, that's going to need a follow-up, though. I mean,
That's fair.
No, I mean, that's fair. I mean, if somebody really did their research, they might find it out. But then I'd have to do the follow-up and then actually ask a few questions on the spot, real time, to get, you know, it will blow me away. It wouldn't make me a believer.
That's fair. I can do baby steps with you.
I can't make those huge leaps of faith, I'm afraid.
Adam, have you ever had any experiences with psychics?
You know, I've never had a reading. I've had someone draw some tarot cards for me, but they're kind of general, I guess. We didn't get to narrow anything down. Plus, it was tough because that we were acquaintance with that person, so it's kind of hard to get a full reading from someone like that. But so I've never had a full reading to judge anything on. I mean, just had experiences with, as we've mentioned him before, our friend Brian, that, to be quite honest, he does amaze me every single time, and I can't wait for John to meet him, honestly. I think you'll be impressed. I really do.
I hope so.
I think so. So, other than that, I haven't really had a lot of experience with.
When I say psychic, to me, I always think you can reach my deceased loved ones. But I realize that it's a much broader area than that. You know, you've got people who are trying to tell you what's going to happen in your life. You've got people who are trying to tell you what's happening in your life now. You've got people who are sensing things from items, and I mean, you name it. I'm sure like most of them have their own kind of specialty or their own kind of niche, and it really is probably as broad as the paranormal field itself. I guess for me, what impresses me most is those people who I feel like are connecting with somebody on the other side. And I think that that's probably where most people are probably taken advantage of. And there's always people who have lost tons of money because they hang on to every word these psychics say.
In history, they wouldn't make a move without the Oracle of Delphi saying whether it's good
and
or
that,
bad.
I mean, you're right. You're right.
Nancy Reagan had one.
Yeah. And a lot of the first ladies did.
Yeah,
there's quite a few of them that had psychics.
Which is really scary when they have that much influence on a president. Now, that's just the American politics that we know of. So if you go to countries that are even more superstitious, how much influence do you think they have there?
Huge.
Yeah. That's scary to me.
Is that scary because you don't believe?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, because, well, even if I did believe, if you take the percent of people that are out to make money and then add that into the mix, how many of them are getting the ear that are just in there to, you know, line their nest kind of deal. Even if there are real psychics. The trouble is, you know, the convincing ones are very clever that aren't psychic.
So, I mean, speaking of history, Bible and beyond, backwards, they've been talking about oracles and psychics and what have you, and that still has no effect on your...
No.
Okay.
No, because, well, they used to believe in a lot of things back then. I mean, you know, Socrates had a lot of beliefs that we know aren't true, or, Pliny the Elder, and a lot of the medical things, philosophers were the medical people, and they'd come up with things like, if you peed in your neighbour's dog bed, then your syphilis would go away, if it was done on a full moon. And that's all written down. So, yes, I have trouble believing just because it's ancient that, it's going to be true, so.
But what about all the things through history? Now, granted, this is not 100%, but like with Nostradamus and the ancient Aztecs and stuff like that predicted these things that have occurred.
But both of them have been very wrong and stuff.
They have been. I'm not saying that they haven't been wrong, but I think
that's what he's going to say.
I know that.
No, that isn't.
I can already picture what he's going to say.
That isn't.
I'll just start with my rebuttal to that already.
already.
So what I'm getting at is, though, yes, they have been wrong. I mean, obviously, the world did not end in 2012, like the ancient Aztecs said it would. But
they didn't say. They said it will be the end of the third wheel, and a new age will begin. All they did was run out. They only prophesied up to a certain point, and then there were no prophecies beside that. Mainly because we wiped them all out, but that was it. And so everybody took that as, it's the end of the world, there's no more prophecies. That's not true. They believed in circular ages, and that circular age ended in 2012. There were just no more prophecies after that. So that, I'll back you up on that.
Okay. Well, but how do you justify them being able to do that so many years ago and being right on a lot of things without some type of psychic ability?
They didn't believe their own prophecies, because if they did, they would have done something about it, which they didn't.
Give me an example.
They got wiped out. Is a example.
Well, I get
but
that.
Did they know they were going to be wiped out?
Yeah, it was the end of an age. Actually, when the Spanish came, that was the end of one cycle. If what I'm reading is true. So, I guess here's the thing. All these people that say, see, I knew, or I predicted that, or this was true, it never alters the fact that something bad happens when they said it happens, and they do nothing to change it. To me is, what's the point? Mm-hmm. If you know, like tonight, if I know, if I take this road home, I'm going to crash. If I take that road home, I'm not. And I take that road home and crash just to prove that I was right. That's stupid. What's the point?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily about them proving themselves right. I think there's not always the, what do you do to stop it? Or can you stop it? Or should you stop it?
They don't believe they can, because they believe what they say is true.
Right.
Well, and if you can see the future, that sort of lends credence to it's already set in stone.
Yes, which I hate.
Which is why I probably don't put a lot of faith in people who want to tell me my future.
A possible future, or they say, if you keep going... doctors do it all the time. You keep smoking, you're going to die. They're not psychic. That's...
Right.
But they're telling you your future. So, and then you choose to follow that or not. To me, I look at something and say, well, if I really truly believed in this, wouldn't you, take advantage of it? You think? If I was psychic, I'd be rich. If I knew stuff that was going to happen, I'd start thinking, which stocks are up? What's the lottery? I know that's an old one. What's the lottery number? But if you got at least a general idea of where the future was going, you'd know how to invest in that future a lot better than charging 66 cents a minute telling people.
Well, and I've always heard them say it doesn't work like that, and you don't get messages that I guess will advance your life, which, again, I don't know how any of this works. I don't know what the rules are. This is just what I have heard said of people who are forecasting the future. And Nostradamus just...
It's very convenient, though, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Just
to go back to what you said, Adam, and not that I have not researched him enough to really know everything he said, but I think a lot of what he said is open to interpretation, and we've interpreted it to mean like the falling of the twins we took as the Twin Towers.
That was a fake. He never said
Right,
that.
well, that was a
just
fake.
saying, yeah.
The one that I can...
And that's the problem. And they're written in French, and they're quatrains. So now, in modern times, a lot of people are going to come up and say, Nostradamus predicted that. And most people go, oh, did he? Mm-hmm. There's nobody looks. And then if you do look, you're looking at translation. How good is the translation?
I do remember watching a documentary years ago on Nostradamus, and one of the things that he did predict was he did talk about genocide and the Nazis. And one of the things, he called him Hister, which was close. I mean, it's not 100% correct, but it was close. And he did get a lot of that right. I know you're thinking, but somebody translated it, blah, 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 yada, 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 whatever. But I'm just saying he did get a lot of that correct. And I think there's something to be said to that. I think there's something that's something to put some thought to, anyways. That is a possibility.
I'm not ruling out Nostradamus. I mean, the one that kind of got me with Nostradamus is how he got famous is he did predict the death of the king. You know, we'll kill the old lion, he got a lance in the eye and died, and the queen was like, yeah, you called it, you know. But what I don't buy is, after Nostradamus dies, let's say Nostradamus was right, and he knew what he was writing, but he wrote it so edgy because he didn't want to get burned at the stake. After that, it's kind of like religion. So my interpretation of what Nostradamus wrote, I'm right. And then someone else, my interpretation is right. No, my interpretation is right. And then all of a sudden you just get people piggybacking. And then you get things like the Twin Towers. That's not even true. So that's why, I mean, you know, I'm not saying Nostradamus was wrong because, you know, close to his lifetime he got a lot of stuff right. But as they get further out, to me, it's interpretation. You can pick any quatrain and say, well, that applies to that.
Well, and I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree with that point, but there was just some very strong things that I feel like he got correct, and I think that's just something that maybe I need to read up on it more, whatever the case might be. But
that's what the History Channel is for. Here's one. For example, there is an argument out there, and this is my starting point always when we talk about a lot of this stuff is, so there is an argument out there that the New Testament was actually written by Josephus, who wrote the histories, on the behest of the Flavian Caesars. So Jesus was written by Josephus, and if you read the New Testament, it is very Roman friendly. Give unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and you know, Pontius Pilate was an absolute bastard, and Nero even threw him out. Ended up throwing him out for being too nasty. That was Nero threw him out. Right. But I washed my hands, and he's a very nice person. But the point in that theory, I mean, I don't know if I hold to that or not, but there was a point in there where you have to say, Jesus did a prophecy that in your lifetime the temple is going to be torn down. Now, if you don't believe in prophecy, which I have a hard time doing, that lends weight because Titus, one of the son of the first Flavian Caesar, was the one that did and tore down the temple in Jerusalem. Which now you got to ask yourself, do I believe in prophecy? If I don't, the New Testament was written 70 years after Jesus died, in the reign of Titus, and Josephus became a Flavian. He was adopted by the Flavians, so Flavius Josephus. So I guess when you go back in history and you talk about prophecies, especially in history, you have to figure out, okay, was this written after it happened and someone just wrote down, hey, he prophesied that, 100 years before? That's a tough thing. So, you know.
That's deep.
It is. You can edit that out, because that had a biblical reference and people get pissy, so.
Well, then they shouldn't be listening to this podcast, I suppose, because I think that these are things that we need to talk about, and I think that, there's things in the Bible that, the Bible talks about ghosts, and I've leaned on that all the time. If you don't believe in ghosts, they were talking about ghosts in the Bible. They were, there's cave drawings of ghosts. There's ghosts everywhere throughout history. So I use that as one of my reference points for believing in the paranormal. So if we can't talk about prophecy in the Bible or with any of that, then I'm sorry, you'll have to find a different podcast.
We just lost our only listener. And it was the Pope.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that when you say psychic, a lot of people automatically go to prophecies, but I do think that they are less popular or even rarer than those who say that they're able to commune with the other side. And you don't believe in that either? Is that my understanding?
I don't know, because it's now, I mean, prophecy is one thing. They don't do that as much anymore. The ones that get money do that, because that's what they get money for. And then there's a whole new kind of badge. Well, they're probably not new, but there's a new thing of, and it's attached to a belief system again. This belief system, which I call folklorist, has grown up. So now you have things that are sensitives, and so they go on ghost hunts, and they can tell you what they feel. Basically, which is an empath, but an empath to dead people. They feel happy, they feel sad, or it feels like a child. They might not get the full words. Some get things talking to them. So suddenly that's splintered off into different branches. And, the thing that I don't like about that is it's very subjective. It's not measurable. It could be anybody. And they might believe what they're getting. I mean, if you get a person that goes in and is imaginative, modern psychics that I see now, I guess the modern way, it's still tied to a modern belief system, and a lot of these people that go in, I don't think they're all fake, but I do think they have very good imaginations. They get a feeling, it's subjective. You walk into a building, you're like, oh, this is kind of scary, and then their minds go crazy with them, like you do. I mean, I've done it. I'm like, oh, what's in that corner? And,
yeah.
But they actually believe that they have an ability, and their thoughts are actually coming from somewhere else and not themselves. And of course, nobody wants to call them out, or because we're our society has got very forgiving of things like that, and it's not. But you can't measure it. You can't. And for me, I'm like I said, I was going to be the bad guy in the room this time, because I don't know what you're saying is true. There's no way you can prove it's true. You could be spinning me a yarn, even if you do believe it. Why is that true? I can't get that unless you can prove to me that you have an ability before you start spinning that yarn.
So we used to have somebody that we investigated with. I'll rewind a little bit. So he is an author. I reached out to him with some questions that I had. He ended up asking to investigate with my group in Iowa because he was writing a book and needed an Iowa location. Fine, come with us. We were all very impressed with him, really excited to get to investigate with him. And we do not use a psychic in our group, See Paranormal. And so this was our first time investigating with a psychic. So when we were in the location that we investigated together, he's saying very general things like, I see a male, and, he's maybe about 19, could be older, could be younger, And at the time, I remember thinking, wow, that's really cool. But now I go back and I listen to that audio, and it just seems very trying to make it something, trying to guess it to be something. And I see now how there's a good chance that I was probably, willing it to be right. That said, we did get some evidence that you could say backs up what he was saying.
Okay.
Yes.
So he was a male that was 19, but maybe older, maybe younger. Come on.
No,
That's a big...
It is. And I don't remember his exact wording because this was, 4 or 5 years ago maybe. But I do remember, I don't know why 19 stuck out to me, so maybe he did say that.
He could have said 50, maybe older, maybe younger.
Right.
19 would have hit too.
And he suggested that this person maybe worked for the building, and I don't think that the people we made contact with that night ever admitted to having worked there.
But he said maybe, so he's right.
Right.
Even if he didn't work for the building. That's a unicorn statement. That's what I was saying.
I mean, you're right. You're right. And I, to your point as well, we wanted to believe it. We wanted to believe that he was correct, and so we went with it. And we had a working relationship with this person for a while, and it's now that we are not working together that I recognize where we may have been
You only remember the hits, and that is the important part of those kind of psychics. They'll do 30 statements. They'll hit maybe once or twice, and it's luck, it's statistics. I can say enough things enough times, some of them are going to be right. You will only remember the ones that were right. And then when you think about what the actual statement was and how you try to fit it in, all of a sudden the ones that were right, you're like, well, hang on a minute, he could have been, he could have said anything, it would have been right, It's like she's kind of tall but short.
Right. And
what does that mean?
it is all very unmeasurable information. And, he could have given me the description of a person to a T, from top to bottom, but if we didn't make contact with them through the ghost box or what have you, then how do I prove that he was really seeing this person?
And once again, you've got to prove the ghost box. That's not
a
thing.
And that's a whole other...
I know. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, because I am the bad guy in the room with psychics, they're all leaps of faith that you have to make, and there are too many of them for me. The ghost box backed him up. Well, wait a minute, he might have been lying and nobody's proved the ghost box yet. So, we're still I'm still at home plate waiting to back,
Mm-hmm. So, I'm on Wikipedia, which I know take for a grain of salt, but it's my go-to.
Wikipedia isn't that wrong all the time. People just...
I know. And they have people who actually go through now and check it.
Yeah.
Check the facts. So Wikipedia says a psychic is a person who claims to use extrasensory perception, or ESP, to identify information hidden from the normal senses, particularly involving telepathy or clairvoyance, or who performs acts that are apparently inexplicable by natural laws. Although many people believe in psychic abilities, the scientific consensus is that there's no proof of the existence of such powers and describes the practice as pseudoscience. So, that to me is not the people who are talking to ghosts. That to me is the people who are making predictions.
I don't know. That's a pretty broad description. I mean, here's the thing is, first you have to establish that ghosts exists. If they do exist, then, you being able to communicate with them would be an extra sense that most people don't.
Well, I suppose that's true.
I mean, I'm just chopping it down into pieces that, to fit that. It's just anything that people don't normally do, basically, and you can't measure because...
Yeah. So it does say that psychics encompass people in a variety of roles. Some are theatrical performers, we all know that, such as stage magicians, who use various techniques to produce the appearance of such abilities for entertainment purposes. So if right there...
Chris Moon.
But that's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. It's theater. Watch his body language when he's doing it. He is theater.
Have you seen him?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
Not live, in person.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant.
But I've seen him do the readings, and the video's right in front. It'd be closer than if I'd go and seen him live.
Yeah.
So, and he's very theatrical, and that's the other thing that gets me. When they start being too theatrical, and he's moving his hands all over the spirit box, and then he's pointing at people and clicking his fingers, and then pointing at the next person.
I don't understand that.
When he did Stagecoach In, there were like 4 or 5 people in the room, and he was moving his hands all over the box, and he was pointing at people and clicking, getting them to ask a question, waiting for a sound. If it wasn't getting the sound, he was pointing at the next person, clicking a finger, getting them to ask questions if there was a sound. You need to see that. I mean, that was pure theater.
I did see one video, and to be honest, I really haven't checked out his videos, although now I'm kind of intrigued to do so. But one video, and I don't think it initially started his fault. I think he just went with it because everybody was freaking out. He was in a room with a lot of young people, like 20s, I'd say. And there was a girl sitting across from him, and she was a little bit curvier. And she had on a rather short necklace that I would classify almost as a choker. And he's giving her some type of reading, although it cuts in so you only get a little bit of what he's saying. But then she says, "My necklace is moving." Well, she's so worked up by what he's saying that her heartbeat is going, and it's making her necklace move. And for that reason, I don't think it started out his fault, because he's not the one that said, "Your necklace is moving." she started it, then everybody freaked out, and then he just went along with it. But at no point did he, like, suggest that maybe it was something else.
But that's the trick with the psychics that I know is they don't do the reading. The person going to the reading does the reading for them. They will ask the questions. The person being read will answer the questions. They're not answering the questions. The person. So anything you give them will be used. Well, here's the other thing that's really interesting. So if you watch a lot of them, I forgot the name of the letters. It's usually a G or a P. There's something with a P or a G. If you watch, they all use those same letters because the majority, not majority, but there's a big chunk of names that start with those letters. Now, I'm seeing something connected to a G or a P. Now, here's the thing. So I think it was 1 in 5 when I did my research. 1 in 5 people have a name starting with those letters. Now, when you have a family of X amount of people, that 1 in 5, all of a sudden, there's a lot of people that have those names connected to those letters. And then if you're in an audience of 200 people, oh my God, the amount of people that have that name. And then you just narrow it down. So you say, I'm getting something with a J, P, and then if you listen, it's like, or with the girls it was M, and I can't remember, but some of them an M, and then when they say, oh yes, and then and then they start going with, if you listen to the names, they'll start shooting off names, but these are high probability names. Yeah. Marie or, Mary, and, and they do their homework, they know, if they're in a certain area. So the trick is, with Chris Moon, definitely, is that he will let the person being read actually do the reading. All he does is shotgun, and then all of a sudden he's narrowed it down pretty good, and they're like, he's amazing, how did he know that? Wow.
So what role does the ghost box actually play in his readings?
The same as it does, and this is why I hate the ghost box. It gives out a suggestion. So you'll get a sound coming out, the same as someone will say, oh, there's something with an M. It'll actually give out a word that sounds like a word. Now, here's the thing is, if it's pareidolia, audible pareidolia a lot of times, so then he'll get them thinking about a certain thing, and a sound will come out of the box, and they'll pick up on it before he does, and they'll say the word, and that gives him, okay, that's what the word is. It's the same as, we do it because, and we've explained, this is what we think we're hearing, and we put it out there. Yeah. As soon as that's out there, that is what you'll hear. So when they, they'd all sit around, like I say, the one I saw that was all theatrics was the Stagecoach Inn. He'll sit there, and then the people in the room will go, oh, I heard blah, blah, whatever the word they think they want to hear, or they did hear, and then he'll pick up on that, and that's why when he's like clicking his fingers and pointing, it's kind of clever. It's the reverse of what a lot of them do. A lot of them will go, I'm hearing this, and then they'll shotgun all these questions. What he does, he sits there with a box, and he'll point and click his fingers, and that means ask a question. And if nothing's coming, he'll go ask a question. So it's not him actually shotgunning the questions. He's getting the audience to shotgun the questions, and then something will come through, and someone will have pareidolia and go, oh.
I just don't understand how that.
All themselves.
And I don't mean to make this episode all about Chris Moon. I don't understand how that makes him a psychic, though.
He's not. That's the whole point.
Well, I guess based on the Wikipedia definition of a psychic, I do understand how that makes him a psychic. Interesting. I'll have to look into him a little bit more. The one thing that always drove me crazy, and even when I was doing research for one of our previous episodes with John Edwards, for example, he specifically tells people, just tell me yes or no. Just tell me yes or no. And then people inevitably will want to explain why they're saying yes. And that drives me insane because it's impossible to know if he was going that way because you've just given him everything, which I know is your point.
Exactly. It's a trick. And it's a very good trick. It's the same as a magic trick. It's the same as these spiritual healers that look like they're rummaging around in your innards and really all they got is chicken blood and bits of chicken gizzards, and they're very clever and adept and moving their fingers, it looks like they're in, and then they'll pull out a piece of chicken gizzard and say, there's your tumor, you're healed. It's very clever, and it takes skill. I'm not saying they're not skilled, or they're very good at what they do, especially the good ones. And it's very hard, especially, like I say, they're preaching to the choir. The people that go there already believe, want to believe, and that's an easy audience to fool.
And John Edwards is one that we've talked about before, and I would kind of put him at the top echelon of psychics, I guess, in the United States.
Do you mean proper psychics or stage psychics?
I mean,
well known.
Yeah, I think at this point they're kind of. I don't know how you differentiate, really.
Well, ones that aren't cold reading, for a start. Well,
my point with him, though, is he has, we talked about this before, so he has been studied in a laboratory setting, and I know you were disappointed with who conducted the study, and that was your area of contention with it, which is fine. But you did agree that it did show that parts of his brain were functioning where normally it doesn't for us. So something's happening, right? Can we agree on that or no?
No, because I was... no, wait a minute. Because, here's why. That documentary told me that parts of his brain were functioning that don't normally function. That doesn't make it true.
But I think there's a paper out there about that.
It could be, but has it been peer reviewed?
I'm almost positive it came from Society for Psychical Research.
But it still needs to be peer reviewed.
Okay, well...
I'm just... Here's the thing. I'm being the...
No, I know you are.
The devil's advocate on this one. Because I really am skeptical on this one. And I'm nice to most people, usually. But if you're, on this podcast, you've said, let's just do it.
I did. Absolutely.
And the reason people get mad, I've been thrown out of like 4 Facebook groups in the last month.
Which I think is hilarious. But
well, no, I haven't been nasty. I've just been saying,
just
hey,
offer
wait a minute,
different truth.
Where is this coming from? I think that's silly. You just made that up. Where's you? But I think the problem is when you, especially the popular ones like John Edwards and whatever her name is from Long Island with the long nails, and all these people, they have a belief system, and it's very important to them, or even psychics, that think they're psychic but can't back it up, and then when you call them out and they can't. The problem is with people like me is I'm taking something away but not giving anything back, and that is hard to take. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't believe in psychics, but maybe, you try and give them a lifeline, but if you take something from someone and they're so indebted in it, it's so entrenched, and you're just a nasty person because you're taking something away. But, my problem is if we are going to make paranormal studies, try and make it at least mainstream believable, and pull in the skeptics and say, look, there is something happening. Don't close your mind off. We need to also get off of some of the la-la land stuff and the people that are doing it just for money that everybody knows they're doing it for money.
Do you check out any of the psychical research stuff at all?
Yeah, we did. I read their journals like every 3 months.
Yeah.
It's quarterly. And I read through, and then the nice thing about being a member is, like when I'm doing my research, like for a podcast or something, you have full access to the library, so you can go back and you can see, it'll take me a lot longer to research all of it. Nobody's got that amount of time that has to go to, but that has a normal life anyway. But if I was in academia, I'd be hitting it out of the ballpark. But you can see, and the nice thing about them is, like the video, you guys got to look at it that I posted today. There are PhD and psychologists and everything that are saying, look, we're open to this, and I think mainstream science is wrong. They've gone too materialist, where they have to break everything down. So
sorry, I was choking my dog.
It's all good. The nice thing is to hear from scientists that will leave that door open and say, statistically, there are too many out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, where they come back and there's no way in the world they could have known stuff. And the amount of reports of that, statistically, is too big to ignore. And I agree with that. But on the reverse edge of that, psychics to me are the anthema of that, because they just make things up and say, you're not allowed to say that I'm making it up or I'm playing a trick, because all these people are going to hate you because they've talked to their loved ones when they really didn't.
Yeah.
You know, so...
You don't have to be right every time to be considered a psychic, and I think some of these people they feel like the more right they are, the more celebrated they are, which is probably true. But sometimes it's just that, every once in a while I get something right. And to me, so this is intuition a little bit, which I personally have tied into psychic behavior, and maybe they're separate. But I know that I have my own intuitive moments that I guess would make me feel like I do have a little bit of psychic ability, although I would never place myself up with any well-known name that you've ever heard of. For example, when I ask Adam what he wants for dinner, and I have something in my head that's super random, and he says the same random thing, like, to me, that's a moment of intuition, which I would tie into psychic behavior. Go ahead.
No. See, me and my wife are the same. So sometimes I'll say something to her and she's like, get out of my head.
Right.
But the thing is, we've been together long enough, and, here's the thing. There's a lot of times where I'll say something that's not right. You only remember the ones that are right. So how many times you asked him how many times?
Does it matter, though?
It does, yes.
Why?
Because there's always that percent where you're going to hit. And like I said, people only remember the hits.
Okay, but I'm just talking about how did we know the same random thing, though? Like,
well,
you don't think you and your wife have kind of your vibrations have come together where you guys can communicate?
Yeah, but that's
non-communicatively.
And that might be. And I mean, I'm not going to close the door on that. But also, I mean, if you walked up to a stranger and said, "What do you want to eat?" and he picked what was in your head, then I'd
for sure. And trust me, Adam gets it wrong way more than he gets it right.
Well, absolutely. But call it intuition, I guess if you formed intuition in the same context with psychic ability, which I think they all kind of fall in the same letter, I guess. They all kind of fall together in a way. There's a lot of things in our life that we pick up on. Like, for instance, I need to call Mom. 2 minutes later, before I call her, my phone rings and it's Mom.
Mm-hmm.
Is that me sending something in my brain to her and she's like, oh, I need to call him? I mean, those are all kinds of things that fall under that letter of psychic ability that I think can't necessarily be just written off and ignored just because I got it wrong 75% of the time.
No, I agree. But that is a long stretch from walking into a building saying, there's a young child in here, it's very sad.
Right.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yes, absolutely.
That I have, if I have a connection with someone I've been around a long time or as a member of my family, and I mean, it's like the study of twins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times there are a lot of colorations with,
Yep.
And that I can believe in. There's a reason for that, I can get my head around that. What I cannot get my head around are these people that just walk into a room and go, oh, and then just start splurting out stuff that isn't even, you can't even correlate that with anything, and that's where I have my problem.
Right, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I guess my main thing is, if we don't work on our intuition ourselves, but these things still happen, then I think that lends a little bit to other people have more abilities than I do.
That is part of the video. Like I said, the video I put up today is there is a psychologist lady there. She got like a PhD, but part of her treating her patients was making them meditate. And she said what started her off down the parapsychology road was she had a guy came in who's 52, is a lawyer, absolute alcoholic, lost his wife. He's just on the end of his rope. And she was like getting him to meditate. He wouldn't take his drugs. He wouldn't do anything. But at one point he meditated, and then he came in next day and said, I'm done drinking. And she's like, yeah, okay. We've been through this cycle before. Mm-hmm. But then he really did stop drinking. And she had asked him, what made you actually stop? And he said, at one meditative state, I heard my mom, just read me a new one about what the hell are you doing. And his mom was dead, obviously. And she went and did a study of, okay, all these people that meditate to a certain state, 50% of them hear things. So she says, okay, so as far as psychics go, I know, and I'm open to that. If you really, if you can get your mind in a certain level that you can do that, I won't argue.
So you're conceding there are some potential for our minds working in a way that we haven't quite grasped.
And I've said from the beginning, I'm not closing the door on that. But
a lot of psychics are hard for me to swallow. I hate that, they've got this California psychics that they want you to call, and whomever you call today. And it's same with Miss Cleo, those kinds of things. That's our society's version today of what a lot of the psychics were back in the spiritualism era.
You think Miss Cleo would have seen it coming? She was about to get
right,
arrested.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I watched John Edwards, though, and he's always been the one that I've kind of clung to. Although I will admit, watching him now after not having seen him for a while, I'm not quite as enchanted with him as I used to be. And I will tell you what my very favorite videos on YouTube are these days. It's the celebrity psychic fails.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I don't like watching them. To me, they're uncomfortable.
Oh, they are. But you put yourself up there for that.
You do, but the thing is, they don't care. Here's the thing. They don't, every time that happens, they never get less popular. And you know why? Because it's a belief system. You cannot attack. Okay, Huff's paranormal. You attack Huff and his ghost box, people will pull you down. You attack Zach Bagans, his belief people, they will drag you down. All of these things, they have a core of people, and it's a belief system. Like I said earlier, you're taking something away. You may have all the good reasons in the world and proof, doesn't matter. You're taking something away, you're not giving anything back. You're a hater, and I hate that word when people call you a hater. Even though I'm not hating, I'm just saying, look, this is what it is. But, it's an emotional, subjective belief. It's not anything to do with, and that's my problem. I like investigating the paranormal, but to investigate it, you've got to pull it away from a belief system, for me.
And I think probably the part that makes psychics such a sensitive topic is the fact that, especially the more popular they get, the higher their price tag gets for a very short period of their time.
Why?
For them to do a reading.
Why?
Oh, because they're so amazing, But you two have also mentioned this before. They're doing these readings for people who have an emotional need to hear something. For example, Adam's father's passed away, and we've only done, I think, 2 gallery readings in our entire lives. But in both of those, I was silently pleading that his father would come through, and in neither of them did his father come through, which you can take as a sign of it doesn't work or not. That wasn't my point. My point being that at one point Adam had a need to hear a message from his father, so he very easily we both could have been taken advantage of by somebody charging us a lot of money to give us a message that may or may not have actually been from his father. And this is happening to a lot of people who have lost loved ones that just need that one final message for them, or need to believe that there's still some part of them that's carrying on. And these people are not even blinking and taking their money, hand over fist, and not just always small amounts. I mean, large amounts. I'll have to put a thing in either on our Facebook or Twitter. Well, Facebook and Twitter. I don't have prices on here. I wish I would have.
Right. On the webpage, 66 cents a minute.
Well, right. Yeah.
So, now,
and
if
that's
you
a nobody.
Them, it goes up. Chris Moon is $100 for 15 minutes, depending. Now, if you want to go on Skype face to face, it goes up. And and here's the other thing. Once they hit the TV and they get the name out there, Jonathan Edwards doesn't have a TV show anymore. But what he does do is he has an agent that books him out for corporate events.
And he'll be in Cedar Rapids in August, maybe.
Yeah. So.
And tickets were like $150 for nosebleed. Yeah. I mean, like, ridiculous.
Yeah. And what's the chances of him coming to you and saying, "Oh, your Aunt Mabel's coming through"?
Right.
And you'd be like, "I haven't got an Aunt Mabel." No, it's the person behind you. Is there someone with a P or a G? Aunt Mabel. No, it's a P or a G. No, it's over here. You know, it's, come on, really.
Yeah. That is probably why they turn people off so bad. If they weren't taking money from people, I don't think it would be such a hot topic, at least for me anyway.
It's not so much the money for me. It's the actual, where do you get off doing that to people? Even if you take $1. If I was in the bar and someone said, "Well, I've got a friend, his wife just died last week." If I said to him, "Hey, you know," and I'm a ghost hunter, I could say, "Hey, you know, Jackie was in my bar the other night. I kind of felt her and she was talking."
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Oh, I could get a free beer off of him." And then say, because, okay, you want to say goodbye. Okay, she said, no, she's fine. Then she closes, she's happy. You could do that, and everyone says, where's the harm in that? That's closure. But the problem is, then they want to go a bit more, and then a bit more, and it's like a drug. They want to keep talking to it.
I mean, there's obviously, you don't get an award for lying. I mean, you just don't. We've made people popular for lying. I'm not going to argue that. And I don't necessarily think you're wrong in looking for somebody to kind of give you a little bit more proof. I always go back to Brian, because Brian is a close friend of mine, and I have seen what I consider to be very impressive things come out of him. And I can't, you know, we met Brian at a public event several years ago, and he and his wife, Pat, this was the first paranormal thing they had ever been to, and they absolutely came on a whim. They had never investigated paranormally, but they had always felt like Brian might have some type of gift, but they weren't sure. And to have watched him over the past few years develop that and embrace it and not feel ashamed because he came from a very religious family that made him feel like that was something that he should not be using. He has since changed his mind and gone ahead and embraced that. It's been really awesome to watch him. And Pat's even, you know, developed her own abilities lately. And part of what, you know, I think Pat does a little bit more is kind of what I do, is more the intuition thing, where I don't just think there's anything wrong to say, I feel like there might be somebody here.
No.
I feel like there's energy around me, because that's fair, because you can feel like that.
Okay.
It's not saying there is, it's I feel. And I think Pat does that a lot, where Brian, for example, we're going to go investigate a church in 2 weeks. And in preparation for that, Brian has gone into his meditative state, and what he's explained to me is he kind of sends out his guides to that place, but then he's almost remote viewing it and can make contact with whatever's there. So he's given us an idea of what we might expect when we go there. No type of activity necessarily, but just in this example, and maybe we can follow up, he said there may be somebody standing guard at the door. I don't want to give out too much more information about that, but it'll be interesting if we can find something that can back that up. When we went to Waverly, he was kind enough to kind of try to connect with the building before we went, and he made contact with a woman who said her name was Sandra, and about midnight, she had come to Brian and said she had not seen us yet, and Brian said, we'll go back and find them. And about that time, on the, I don't remember if it was through the Spiritus app, I'm almost sure, it said, who's Brian? Or something like that. But we were talking about Brian and Sandra. So, I mean, all of that just kind of came together. Now, could that have been coincidence? Absolutely. But that's just one example to me, because I already believe in Brian's abilities, that I guess kind of fed that. Now, also, we talked about going to that museum, and Brian, who had never been there before, was saying, so this is here, right? And this is here, right? And this is here, right? And the curators were shocked. They're like, yeah, you're sure you've never been here? Nope, never been here before. And he knew so much about that building, having never stepped foot in it. And we've talked before that for you to hear me talk about Brian, this is all normal. me knowing Brian is completely different.
Well, you said something that, kind of links up what I said before. You actually said he goes into a meditative state.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'm willing to, well, not buy into it, but keep that door open.
So he scries, I know, or what helps him. So if you're unfamiliar with what scrying is, it's basically the same thing as looking into a crystal ball. It allows you to kind of relax your mind and calm your mind, so you can go into a meditative state if you're doing it properly, and you can do it with stones, with water, with fire, with just about anything, with black mirrors.
Heroin.
Okay. I mean, whatever trips your trigger. You want to use heroin, we'll use heroin. But you can use about anything to help relax your brain, to get into a proper, I'm going to call it a meditative state because I don't know what else to call it, that kind of opens your mind to whatever. And in this case, that state gives Brian information about other locations, or lets him hear from spirits from wherever.
Here's the thing. So, but this is all things that I've thought about and gone through, and other people have that I've read. So, there's a very good Terry Pratchett, awesome author. If you ever get a chance, he did the Discworld stuff, which is kind of like satirical fantasy world. It's a fantasy world, but it's really our world. So he just makes satire of it. And the Wizards Guild used to have these big elaborate ceremonies and everything else, until some of the wizards figured out that you could do the same thing with half a candle and 4 cc's of mouse blood. The reason I'm bringing that up is because, like I said, you have these people that are bent on crystals, these people that are bent on that and bent on this. Like you just said, whatever it takes to get your mind into a meditative state, I can buy that. But, having rose crystals for this and blue crystals for that, I'm like, what? They're the same crystals. Come on, really? Like I say, I'm not closing the door. And the thing that got me is, you said he gets into a meditative state, and whatever he uses, Nostradamus used a bowl of water. Some people use a crystal ball. Whatever it is, some people use mirrors. Whatever you can do and contemplate and get your mind to bring it down and start thinking.
The big thing with Brian for me is, as we talk about, the psychics taking money and the people needing something, is the things that we've asked him to do for us benefit him zero. I mean, he gets nothing out of it from us other than that was really cool. I mean, and he doesn't want to charge people money and do the readings and do all of that stuff. I mean, this is all just done for him. Basically for him. I mean, he there's
I think he's still trying to convince himself.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I had that conversation with him the last time he was at the Granger house about that. And he did make that comment that sometimes he can, I guess, I don't want to say confuses himself, but can't convince himself that he's right. I guess maybe it's the way to go with that.
Or that's what he's actually doing.
Right. What direction he's, I guess.
Because, I mean, you're right or not. I mean, you say, okay, there's a room to the left, looks like that. I mean, that you can prove that it's right or not. But, here's the thing. So, once again, going back, you take it for people like the Long Island or John Edwards or anything. I've never seen them go into a meditative state.
No.
And how they can calm their brain under, spotlights, cameras. So,
And on the spot like that. And
yeah. I can't buy it. Now, I will leave the door open, I mean, like I say, but this is based on science, or at least scientists observing and getting statistics from people, for example, that psychologists have said, people under treatment that says that they need to learn to meditate. And meditation's hard. I can't do it, but I just can't shut my brain
It takes practice, I've heard. I'm also not good at it.
It takes a crap ton of alcohol for me.
I think that's called passing out.
Yeah. It stops working at the end of it, so... which is why I said heroin. But, the thing is, if people can meditate to a point, and that goes back, so we're in Western belief system, and, the old Eastern religions, That's all meditation, and they used to be able to do all kinds of weird stuff. Now, none of it's proven, but the thing is, maybe they could, because, and this will be for another podcast maybe, but the question is, does the brain create the mind? Are we a biological machine and our self-conscious is a result of our brain, or is the mind something separate from the brain?
Mm-hmm.
And we can go through, because I've done some research in that too.
Jesus, that's deep too.
No, but it is a fundamental paranormal
No, you're
question.
right.
Is our consciousness a result of a biomechanical engine, our brain, and then when the brain stops, we're done? Or is the mind something else, that doesn't need to be attached to the brain? When the brain stops, are you still there? So that is the basic core question of paranormal stuff. If that's true, if the mind is something more than the brain, then I can see people, with psychic abilities being able to operate, and then it goes down to quantum, that's a whole new podcast, but that's quantum mechanics and everything else. So that's why I leave the door open. But people that just walk into a room and say, I see a little girl, she's sad, she's wearing a frilly dress, I can't buy that. It doesn't work that way, I don't think.
No. All right, you were talking about little girls in frilly dresses, and I just wanted to share an experience. I don't know if I shared it before or not. I know we had talked about Michael and Marty Perry, who are one of the 2 gallery readings I've seen in my life. So Michael does more of your traditional gallery reading where he stands there and gives you whatever impressions he's getting from your dead relatives. Marty, on the other hand, will put in headphones and she kind of minds her own business, and she'll draw pictures of the people who are presenting themselves to her, and then she gets information about them in the process so she can tell you, hey, this guy is your uncle, and so forth, and whatever. What's interesting to me about them, the night before, and we saw them at the Palmer House Hotel in Sauk Center, Minnesota, and the night before my group, See Paranormal, had been down in the basement investigating, and at one point I thought I heard a little girl, and I thought she said mommy, and when I said, did anybody else hear a little girl, everybody said no, so I did not say anything else to anybody, because a little girl saying mommy is just very cliche to me. So I thought, surely I was hearing something else. I didn't say another word. Nobody else heard a little girl. I left it at that. We went upstairs on the break time when all the groups were coming back to talk about what they had experienced in the building, and I just hear somebody, Sarah, who's Sarah? And I like the world's most common name, so I very rarely ever acknowledge when somebody's looking for Sarah, because it's hardly ever me. Well, in this case, I was miraculously the only Sarah present, so I said, yeah, what? And he said, I was sitting at the bar and having a conversation, and this little girl kept tugging on my jacket, spirit little girl, and he tried to get her to go away a few times, and she was unrelenting, and so he finally said, what is it? And the little girl told him that I had heard her in the basement. Now, he could have lied and said he was at the bar when he was in fact downstairs, but he told me what she had said, and I didn't tell anybody what I heard her say, which I thought was kind of impressive. Then, the next day, during his gallery reading, he, made contact with that little girl again, and through his questioning, I guess, of this little girl, ended up determining that she was the daughter of one of the participants, who had died very shortly after birth, but was presenting herself as this little girl, and everything that he had said to the mom, and granted, this goes back to, you've got a mother who's lost a child, so obviously she's in a very fragile emotional state, to say the least. So I don't know this woman's story. I don't know how close he was, or how not close he was, or how much she was giving him, or what. But I can tell you that my experience with Michael, and then his experience with that woman, and they all kind of came together, was very impressive to me. Now, there again, Michael and Marty Perry charge an ass load if you want to have a session with one or both of them. So they're no less, no better than anybody we've talked about tonight. That's just one of my personal experiences that I've had that I thought was pretty
one
Cool.
thing and having that experience, will reinforce, your belief or non-belief. So, and as far as charging, if you really could talk to someone's loved one and really do it, okay, what's the dollar value on that? I mean, okay, I'll admit it should be pretty high, except that the chances are most of them aren't doing it. I'm not ready to shut the door on any of this, but I know human nature and the tactics they use. When you watch them, you can pretty much pick them. When you see them operate, from the shotgun go calling to the question, oh, that one's stuck. Or looking at you while they're doing it, and oh, there's a smile, I'm onto something.
Yeah.
So I'm not ready to shut the door on it. It's just my problem is it's become fashionable too.
No, it is, yes.
So we've got, after we talked about the shows, now we got all these ghost hunter groups, and a lot of the shows now, they say, oh, they're our psychic. How are they psychic all of a sudden? There's so many of them, and they go in and they talk, and I feel this. You got no way of checking that. Makes a good YouTube video or a video, same as the blinky lights and the spirit box, and we do it, so I'm just as guilty.
Well, and I think our two groups are part of the minority in that we don't have somebody on our team who claims to have psychic abilities.
We've discussed it. Me and the guys have discussed it. I said, look, because we saw a lot of them had psychic. The thing that gets me is a lot of these groups, the psychic is also the historian. Hey, go figure.
Well, yes.
All of a sudden they know things about the place that no one else knew. But I talked to the guys, and I pretty much, I'm not the leader, but I put my foot down. I said, we're not doing it. If I got nothing against a psychic being in that group, but the interview would be extremely rigorous. And most psychics will probably burst into tears and leave, after about 10 minutes of that interview. So, I got nothing against using one, but I have to definitely believe that they're not just spouting stuff,
Well, and here's my thing about the charging, too. At some point, it just became a norm in the paranormal community that if you're going to help people in their private homes, you do not charge for your services as a paranormal investigating group, because we don't know what we're doing necessarily, and because we're performing quote unquote a service. How is being a psychic really any different than that, though? Truly,
it's not.
Okay, so why then is it okay to put that price tag on if it's not okay for me? And we don't do private homes. We've done 2.
Yeah, probably maybe 3 tops.
But as a norm, we don't do private homes. It's just not something that we're prepared to do. If I had somebody I knew that came to me and asked me to, I would. But as a whole, we typically don't. But if I were to start, why can't I charge? If a psychic can charge you to come in and give you her impressions of what's in your house and tell you your dead grandma is in there and she's watching over you.
Here's the thing: we do private homes. We'll do them if somebody else's. We don't charge. But here's the other thing: if we do them, we've done a couple, and we said it's not haunted. Sorry, we got nothing. And these things that you reported that we had to investigate, we found mundane reasons for. The other reason we wouldn't charge, if we went to one that was haunted, where we thought, my God, there's something in there that we just can't explain, and books are flying through the air, whatever, let's just say extreme version. Okay, so we wouldn't know how to help them, because
that's
all we can say is, you're not losing your mind, this house is, something's going on. The next logical thing is they're going to say, what should I do about it? I'd be like, you know what, I don't know, because the rest is now folklore, or if, and honestly, I believe that whatever you guys believe in, it's kind of like placebo. So if you're Catholics, get an exorcist in, get a priest in, do an exorcist. If you're Wiccan, burn sage everywhere. Whatever you want to do that makes you feel better, that's going to, and maybe that will get rid of it.
And I've had a few people ask me what they should do if they feel like there's something in their house. I am always the first person to tell people, you don't even need to invite a paranormal group in your home if you feel like it's haunted. The very first thing you do is speak out loud and set ground rules. If you think there's something in your house, just say out loud, if you're here, you can coexist with us, but we don't want to hear you, we don't want to see you, we don't want to know that you're here.
And stop yelling, get out at me.
I really think that there's something to that. I really honestly do. You know, if you're talking to what used to be a person, then they're going to understand that. Now, whether they respect it or not is a whole other ballgame, but the people that I have suggested do that and who have actually done it have all been okay with it. Now, what I've not investigated their houses, obviously, so I don't know what was or was not happening, but...
Which goes back to the belief system.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so now here's the problem with that, though. If it's just on that person's belief system, is it real? Because it's one thing or another. It can't be all
Well,
things.
perception's reality, right?
Exactly. So now all of a sudden, yeah, I've got a ghost and I'm, you know, pick something. You know, I believe in the Neo-Wiccan stuff. Burn sage. You burn sage. I know it works. It worked.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, I'm starting to think, yeah, but what if the ghost wasn't Neo-Wiccan? Sage isn't going to do anything to it.
That's why setting ground rules in your house and owning your house and your own property and your
So you think
environment.
A stern talking to
Absolutely.
does it?
I think in most cases, yeah, I would say that it probably will. And the reason I say that is because you're dealing with a human spirit. You're dealing with a spirit that once was human. If you want to believe, you know, Ghost Adventures, you're dealing with a demon. But I mean, I'm just saying, you're dealing with someone that once was human. If I walk into your house and I'm acting like a total jerk, and I'm knocking over your books, and you tell me, dude, knock it off, I'm going to knock it off.
Yeah, but
he probably wouldn't.
No, but a lot of people wouldn't though. If you're going from a human perspective, you get some Egypts, dare I say
what?
Egypts, or dare I say fuckwit.
No.
No, but I mean, you get people that come in. Let's say you have a party. Somebody gets really drunk. You're like, "Hey, you're too drunk. Leave."
But that's you're changing the state of somebody.
Doesn't matter. I mean,
it does. Absolutely.
Well, okay,
it does.
But there are some people that, and trust me, because I know some that are naturally that way. They're just, you know.
Oh, I don't doubt it. And I'm not saying it's a foolproof, but I can tell you, my grandson, who's 3, has been telling my daughter that he's talking to a little girl, and you know, he's 3, so he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he's telling her all about this little girl, and so she's concerned that he's seen somebody in their house, and they do have an older house, and so I told her, you know, try setting ground rules, and whether or not it changes anything because he's 3 and he can't tell us for sure that she is or is not there anymore, it's making Mackenzie feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps the people that I've suggested do that in the past, it simply just made them feel better. I can tell you when we started thinking there was something down in our basement, we did that and we hadn't had a problem since.
And I guess that's the point I was trying to make, but not getting out so good, is it's on a belief system. So if you do, like say, strongly worded language at them, and they will stop. If that's what you think works. Now, maybe it's more of a placebo thing, because, and when I say placebo, I mean that real, in that placebo effect actually does work in real life. There are people that take something, a sugar cube, you say something else, they will be cured.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So maybe
that's why psychic surgeries work.
Chicken gizzards no longer in my belly button. But the point, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, if you're having a connection with something on site and you say, okay, this is going to stop that happening, it doesn't really get rid of it. It just severs the connection where you're no longer aware of it.
And perhaps that's all you need. I mean, when we hear something in our living room at night, because we've got leather furniture and we've got pleather furniture that, trust me, any little movement you can hear loud and clear. When we hear that at night, and Adam yells, "Stop it, go home," it'll stop. So whether it's severing the communication where we can hear it, I'm okay with that because you're not annoying me anymore.
Yeah.
Or whether it's working and they're physically going somewhere else, again, I'm okay with that.
But what we're doing now, again, is we are making up rules in our head as to how it works, but we really don't know how it works. And
You're right.
I have problems with.
Well, you are 100% right. We don't know exactly how it works.
We're filling in the gaps. We're human.
But we have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and that's fine. But you got to test that too, though.
Well, absolutely. But
we've gotten so far off topic.
Oh yeah.
We haven't. No, we haven't, because that is what psychics do. Fill in the gaps.
You're right.
And it becomes so. Yeah. So if I was a psychic, so let's say you get the ghost hunters in first, and they say, "Yeah, it's haunted." What are we going to do about it? I'll call up this lady. She's a psychic. We've used her before. That happens a lot. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
She comes in. She gives them a stern talking to, because that's your belief system, and charges you $300. Oh, she goes, and you're like, she's wonderful. We'd use her every time. But the thing is, all she did was use your own belief system.
But would you feel different about it if someone, because I have had this happen, if someone called you and said, "Hey, I think my house is haunted, would you come investigate it?" And my response to that was, I could come investigate it, but I can't help you. If you want it to go away, I can't help you.
And we say that up front.
Okay, well, we really don't want that. Okay, well, how about if I put you in touch with this person who is a psychic, and she will come and help you. And that person comes and helps them, doesn't charge them any money, but then they report back to me that everything is good.
That's fine. I got no problem with that.
So we just set ground rules on how to properly
right, exactly.
I got no problem with that.
I mean, because that did personally happen.
Yeah.
Someone called us, and I explained, there is nothing we can do to make it go away.
No.
I have someone that I can call. They can come and help you. She's not going to charge you anything to come and help you.
See, here's the thing. So the two we've been to, where we said it's not haunted, these noises you're hearing and whatever's going on, we gave them plausible explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to them since, and they're like, yeah, it's not haunted. Yeah, I can hear when it goes off, it's a sump pump or whatever. Or, if I say, I can't help you, go get a psychic from the get-go without investigating, she comes in, says words, burn sage, whatever it is they do, and then leaves, and I talk to him, he says, yeah, no, it's not haunted anymore. I'd rather do it my way first, and then...
But how do I know if your house is haunted? I mean, your point, how do I know if your house is haunted?
I don't. That's why I want to do it.
I mean,
See, I want to collect the data first, you know?
I agree
Instead
with
of
you,
just say, I can't help you if it is haunted, and not investigate it.
Well, and in his case, they didn't want us to come if we were going to help anyway. So.
Because I did try to explain, number one, and I do firmly believe this, if we come and investigate it and there is something there, and whatever is there realizes, hey, they are paying attention to me, it might get worse. They might start talking more, acting up more. So, in my explanation to them was, I can come investigate it, but if there is something there, it might become more active because of my investigation.
But that's a supposition. In fact, I do it.
But I would rather err on the side of caution.
No, if I believe that, I'd really want to do it. Because if it did get more, then I have more data. That supposition actually happened. So I know.
I do not disagree with you.
You see what I'm trying to say?
No, I completely see what you're saying. I don't disagree with you to...
Plus, I don't live there.
That's my point, right there. Exactly. You don't live there. So if I went in there and I did cause it to get worse, that's on me now to fix it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
But
I already know I can't fix it.
No, but here's the thing. You did fix it by pointing them to... and I mean, I'd need to go get the data.
Right.
And here's the thing. From my experiences, go in there and saying, it's a sump pump or blah blah, trucks go by, it all rattles, we saw it move, and that's happened too. They say, well, we put the salt here, and when we wake up in the morning, it's over there. Well, they're on like a big highway, trucks go by, the whole thing's shaking. And we were sitting there at the dining room table, and on the kitchen counter, we watched the salt just slowly, and every truck did it just a couple of inches.
Yeah.
But by the morning, the salt's over there, and they're like, well, we didn't put it, we know we didn't put it there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so, but I'd have to go and get the data first. And then if it got worse, I'd be overjoyed. I would go and do a second investigation just to see.
But they would have to be okay with their house being your experiment.
Right.
Laboratory.
Well, then don't call me.
I agree.
Paranormal investigator, not ghost hunter.
Yeah,
Paranormal,
I agree.
I can investigate. So yeah, if I have to do more than one investigation and things change, like they say in quantum physics, just by observing an object, you change the object.
Yep.
So if by us investigating, and I would tell them that, I say, look, you know, it's probably not haunted, which is what I tell everybody, but we'll come take a look for you. Now, if it is haunted, whatever we tell you, you know, it might. I don't tell them because I'm not sure of that. That's a supposition. I will not do a supposition. So, you know, and I don't believe in demons. So if you think I'm callous and going, oh, I don't live there, that's funny. It's just because I don't believe in demonic hauntings.
Whole other show.
Yeah.
But back to, you know, to your point, when I was checking out some videos from early Ghost Hunters episodes, because we had kind of talked about that in the last episode, I remember how unimpressed Jay was with everything. And all of season 1, I mean, they were getting pissed because, and when I say they, I mean his team was getting pissed because he refused to call anything haunted. And I started thinking about that more and more, and it kind of speaks to how ratings definitely change things, because then he started relenting a little bit and started, okay, well, maybe it is haunted. Maybe it is this. Maybe, instead of sticking to his guns and...
Yeah, part of that as well. I mean, I'm the same. You got to kick me pretty hard to say it's haunted, but once you get enough experiences where you're like, ooh, that's not normal, or ooh, I shouldn't have heard that, I shouldn't have seen that shouldn't have happened, that shouldn't have gone off. You know, you put them all together. You can only say that's coincidence so many times, or you can only say, oh, that's equipment failure so many times. So, you know, at the beginning, and I still am, I'm still very skeptic of things, but if I get enough things go off at the same time, I've done it enough now where I'm like, let's just say this house has a lot more coincidences than this house. Mm-hmm. So if you want to use the word haunted, fine, you know, but I guess that's the thing. At the beginning, you don't know what your baseline is. So you go into a house and your EMF's going off or whatever they do, you're thinking, oh, it's this or it's that or it's this. You go to another one, all of a sudden you've got your baseline where it happens a lot or it hardly happens. So, you know, it takes you a while before you, for me anyway, before you get to a place where you go, man, this place is haunted.
Yeah.
And even then, I never use the word haunted. At least I try not to. Just because I don't know what it is. There's a lot of anomalies.
Fair enough. Well, one thing, Anderson Cooper had Teresa Caputo on his show. And she was giving readings.
Is that the Long Island one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tune in next week to see if she's got bangs on
Correct.
her. Even though she can talk to the dead, we're not interested.
Exactly.
Let's look at her nails.
Well, they are way too long. But she had some what I would consider fails, and it was funny to me because they did kind of a bonus footage afterwards and asked Anderson, so how do you feel about Teresa now? Do you feel like she can talk to ghosts? And his response is very much something that I would expect to come out of your mouth, John.
I'm pretty skeptical about all the psychic medium stuff. So, you know, she seemed nice and she was fun. But you know, I just think there's a lot of like, if you say to a room of 300 people, oh, you know, somebody here has lost a sister, there's a good chance, you know, or somebody here has ashes of a loved one, there's a good chance somebody has a piece of jewelry that has some ashes in it. So I am skeptical. I think people so want to believe in things, but you know, I mean, I'm open to the possibilities. I just sort of want to see actual proof and till that happens, I sort of feel like it's my job to be skeptical, and or at least asking tough questions about stuff like that.
Long story short, no. What's his answer?
Hell no.
But it was kind of funny, and it just made me laugh a little bit. And he was trying to be very nice about the fact that he didn't see anything to change his opinion, but it cracked me up a little bit.
Well, that's the whole point, and that's, how do I put it? I mean, that's their strength. Because it's a belief system, you cannot go after some of the people that are really just predatory, because if you do, you're also going after the people that believe in them that are vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Once again, you're taking something away from already vulnerable people, and just, it's very hard, and they know it too. Like I say, when they get found out, their popularity very rarely goes down. I mean, Uri Geller, Johnny, I can't remember the guy's name, Rudy, I wish I could remember his name, but he was a friend of Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson had Uri Geller on the show.
Yep.
And instead of Uri Geller using his own props, this guy had gone through all the props and put in front of Uri Geller, and Uri Geller couldn't do a thing. And he was whining about, you are against me. I can't feel it. I'm not up to it. You people are very aggressive. It's disturbing it. And I'm like, no, But all the people that believe in Uri Geller felt sorry for Uri Geller because he was a victim of skeptics and haters, But he wasn't, And that's sad.
Well,
I think.
And there's a lot. Spoon bending, that was big in 60s, 70s, and
it's easy to do. You just bend the spoon, get a crack in it, you can go like that.
Yeah, but it, everybody thought that was the biggest thing for a long time, and it took a while to get rid of that too. I guess we all have our.
Well, he did more than spoon bending though. That's the whole point.
Right.
He's famous for, but he did mind reading pictures. He did driving a car while hooded.
Good. Always safe.
He did. Well, but the thing is, when they checked it, you could see through the hood.
Yeah. Well, naturally.
So,
naturally.
So, as far as psychics go, and this is a message: if you really are psychic, you have an uphill battle. It isn't just steep; it's vertical because of people like that. So
I would agree.
I know, and if I'm being skeptic, and I don't mean to hate, and I don't mean to, I'm just saying for what's out there. If you really are psychic, these people are making it hard for you. So don't hate
me. For sure. Hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do our picture of the week next week. I'll have John email it to me. What I'm going to do instead. So in our last episode, John had talked about a BBC special that he thought was called In the Footsteps of Harry Price. It was actually called The Ghost Hunters.
There you go. Top of my head.
I found it, and it's a 2-part, and it's 2 very short clips. But I'm going to put it on our Twitter and on our Facebook because I thought it was really interesting. So it is in the 70s. It is tweed coats, very, serious shit.
They've got some awesome hair and sideburns.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But they're at...
Heathcliff.
Yeah, right? They're at Borley Church, and it was really interesting to me.
They were skeptics.
They were, and they got really good evidence, actually. And watching them made me want to be better at what I'm doing. So I'm going to share that. I want you all to watch it, and I hope that you will give us your opinion on that. And we'll leave it at that.
And
yeah,
if that's good, honestly, I don't know what it's called. I just discovered it. It's called the Tom Tom Festival, but it's Life After Death. John Cleese is the host. I've got it on our website, so if you want to post that, because these people all got PhDs and everything else.
Please do.
And they're doing what I say, leave the door open. I mean, be skeptical, be serious about it.
Yeah.
But don't dismiss everything. And these guys are really good.
Good. Okay. Well, John will share that then to our Facebook and Twitter as well. If you want to check out John's videos, you can do that. It's WTF Investigations. And there's a new video that has Adam and I in it too. If you want to see what all 3 of us look like, you can whatever. You can catch the 3 of us on Facebook and Twitter, like I said, at Seeking the Paranormal Podcast, and you can find me on Facebook at See Paranormal Sarah. It's SEE Sarah with an H. And that is where we are.
Well, the talking with spirits, we were drinking a lot because we just got out of jail.
Right. Oh, you should have opened with that. All right, my friends. Have a great rest of your week. And until next week, keep seeking the paranormal.